I have really hated some Stephen King movies. What's happening? I'm not sure. And then I went somewhere very weird. This is gonna be very bad. Buckle up, because things are about to get wild. I'm getting a little beaten down. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I like to talk about books, and in this vlog I'm going to be reading Stephen King books. I don't think I've read anything by Stephen King. Nothing substantial. The only thing I can think of that I've read is Elevation, which is like a 60-page short story that's not even a horror story. Certainly I must have read more. I guess not. I suppose I haven't read much Stephen King, but it's October, so there's no better time to read Stephen King books if you're gonna get going. So I've picked out a couple that I think are the most talked about or have been personally recommended to me to read this week and just see if I like them. I have seen Stephen King movies and I've watched the show Castle Rock on Hulu, which kind of incorporates Stephen King world building stuff into its own kind of new show. I really like Castle Rock. I have really hated some Stephen King movies. I really liked some I really like, but then hate the endings. I think the most consistent thing for me is I don't like Stephen King's endings. So I am anticipating to see that happen in this vlog, but we shall see. I've got to give him a chance. So the books that I'm going to be reading this week are Joyland. This is some kind of amusement park book which just isn't very widely talked about. I've seen people talk about it on BookTube and it seems like a weird one of his. So I was intrigued by this. Then we have Misery. This is one I think I'm going to like the most. So I know the story of Misery based off of watching Castle Rock season 2, which is incorporating a lot of characters from Misery and kind of isn't the story of Misery. It just spins some of the pieces of Misery into that storyline. So then I've looked up what Misery is about. It is about this woman who's a nurse who traps this famous author, and it turns out that she does weird bad things to him. I mean, I don't know the exact premise, but that sounds interesting to me. Revival, I've had personally recommended to me. One of my coworkers said this is his favorite Stephen King book, and he's read like a lot of them, so I trust this opinion. And I don't know anything that it's about. I kind of prefer it that way. I have started this one and read the first chapter, so I know there's a preacher and he's creepy. So we'll see how this one goes. And then I'm also reading The Shining, but it's in the other room and I don't feel like getting it right now. So I'll throw up the cover if you're interested, but it'll probably be a different cover from what I own. We'll see if I get to all 4 of these books. I'm hoping to. They're all relatively short compared to some Stephen King books that I've seen, like The Institute, The Outsider. Like some of them are like 800 pages. 11/22/63, that one's huge. Like I'm not doing that. I think I can get through at least 3 of these, and that leaves some flexibility to DNF if I'm really hating one for any reason whatsoever. Yeah, but I'm excited to start reading these. Like I said, I'm gonna start with Revival, and I'll keep you guys posted along the way. So I'm nearing getting halfway through Revival. This is the book I knew the absolute least about. I had absolutely no idea what the story was going to be from the second I started reading it, and halfway through, I still kind of don't know. When this book starts, there's a lot of attention on this creepy preacher who comes to town. Our main narrator is this little boy who's somewhere around the age of 6 at the time the preacher comes. He really looks up to the preacher. He like forms his relationship with him, but the preacher's like oddly obsessed with electricity. And then something happens, don't want to give a spoiler, kind of drives the preacher a little bit mad, and then he has to leave. And then from there, things just keep happening, but what's happening, I'm not sure. I typically read more slice of life stories, and this is going through this character's entire life from like age 6 to now we're up to age 40-ish, and I'm halfway through. And when the book started, he was framing it as like, this preacher was a person who had a really big impact on his life, and like had he never met him, maybe things wouldn't have gone so bad in his life, is kind of what's being implied. So far he's grown up, he's had a girlfriend, he's gone off to college, he's played in a band, and I'm just like, what's going on here? The writing's really good. I just don't know what it's all coming to. Okay, I just finished Revival, but it's really dark outside, so I'll tell you about it in the morning. So, final thoughts on Revival. I was sort of set up to not like this book as much as I could have if I had different preferences. Like I said, I knew nothing about this book going in. I had no expectations at all. I had read nothing about it, I had heard nothing about it. Literally all I was going off of was the title and the cover. And when it starts, the narration is from this little boy, and he's talking about this preacher who came to his town and the impact he sort of had on him and his family members. And then you kind of go a few years later after the preacher has left and talk about what he did in his teenagehood, and basically it just follows him through his entire life. And sometimes the preacher's involved in his life, sometimes he's not. He comes like in and out of his life. He calls him his fifth business. I personally just prefer slice of life stories rather than like, here's this person's entire life and what happened to him. So I would have preferred if this story had a more contained timeline. Also, in classic King style, around the 75% mark, I was like, okay, where's this going? And then it went somewhere very weird that I was not expecting at all. I don't know. It just like the whole book is so normal. There's like scenes where like sort of weird things happen that aren't super explained, but most of it is pretty like in the real world. And then in the end, you get some supernatural stuff that occurs, which didn't really make sense to me. And I wish would have been like planted more throughout the story if that's what you're gonna do, but also I just would have preferred if it hadn't been a supernatural ending. So basically, I would give this book probably like a 3.5 out of 5. I did think the writing was very enjoyable. I was able to be consumed in the story enough to keep reading it, even though it was sort of like nothing was happening. I mean, that's just how I feel. When it's a character's entire life, it just feels like nothing's happening because you're not focusing on the one big moment in their life where you're leading up to it happens and then the consequences of the fallout. Like, that's just my preferred pacing for a book. So yeah, it was fine. Probably won't be my favorite this week though, if I had to guess. So next up, I'm going to do The Shining because I have an audiobook version of this on Libby right now, and I really would like to leverage that because this is the thickest of the remaining books that I have. The rest are pretty small, but this one, the audiobook's like, is either like 12 or 14 hours long. So this is definitely a longer one, and I would like the audiobook to help me. But I'm excited for this one. I think it could be my favorite. I think either this one or Misery will be my favorite, and it's really just gonna depend on reading it, of course. So I just started The Shining, and I'm listening to it on audiobook while I work. And obviously, if you know how The Shining goes, like what happens, I mean, I know what happens. I've seen the movie. Most people know what happens. But this is my first time reading the book, and I haven't seen the movie in a couple years, and it's just really funny to listen to the first chapter where this dude does not want to give him this job. He's like, I don't know, man, like, I don't really want to let a family in here because there was this real bad drunk man who like murdered his family, and like, you know, it's a great hotel, I don't want anything bad to happen. And Jack's just like, yeah, I know, it's gonna be great, yeah, like, definitely hire me. And you're just sitting here like, this is gonna be very bad. This is gonna be very, very bad. And you just sit here thinking about this man and the way he's gonna feel at the end of all this. Just like, I knew I shouldn't have hired that man. Okay, but hold up. Does this happen in the movie? Because, like I said, it's been a while, but the kid can read his dad's mind. Am I being stupid? Like, I did not know that. He's literally just like, there's whole paragraphs of him just reading his dad's mind. And I had to look in the physical copy to see if I was listening to it correctly. And yeah, I was listening correctly. He's reading his dad's mind. That's so crazy to me. I'm just gonna have unlimited thoughts about this book, apparently. Doesn't the movie start with them driving to the Overlook Hotel, right? If memory serves me correctly, I think so. This book, we're just now getting to them driving to the hotel. So we had, how many pages is this? 83 pages leading up to them even going to the hotel. And this is not a complaint. I loved that ish so much. I just am having a great time. You just get so much context on the family and Jack's alcohol problem and his relationship with his family and how bad Wendy wants to leave him and take her kid away from him, and all these struggles he's been having at work, and how his alcoholism has gotten him into very bad situations. And it just creates so much suspense for them to now be going to this isolated hotel alone, where bad things have happened before because the man was an alcoholic, and now this alcoholic is going there with his family, and you're just like, buckle up, because things are about to get wild. And I'm pretty sure the movie starts, because I know that aerial bird's eye view shot of the car like winding through the mountains, like I think that's where it begins. I'm definitely gonna have to watch the movie after I finish reading this to really point out the differences and actually remember it. But yeah, I'm having a 5-star time right now. Good morning. I have finished The Shining, and it feels like an accomplishment because this book was longer than I thought it was going to be and took longer than I thought it would, but it feels good to be done. And this was a 5-star read. Not too much more to say. I loved it. I really do need to watch the movie now because there's that lighting, not great. I just don't remember the movie. Period. I just don't remember it enough at all. I just remember like the basic idea of what happens. Pretty sure the ending is different in the movie. But yeah, I really liked this. I liked the boy a lot more. I liked his character a lot more in the book than I remember liking him in the movie. And I really also liked the wife, the mom, Wendy, in the book. I just feel like she had more agency in the book than I remember her having in the movie. But like I said, it's been a long time. So I'm going to have to watch the movie now, and then I can report back on the differences and if the book really is better than the movie. Hello, editing Ashley here real quick. So I did watch the Shining movie last night, but I only watched the first half because it's like 3 hours long and I was not expecting that. And I started it way too late. So only got halfway through, but I can confirm Wendy does have way more agency in the book and way more like opinions and negativity about the situation she's in, which I like way better. In the movie, she's just like a little too much of a sweet doting wife, and I don't like that as much. I really prefer her character in the book. And also in the movie, the boy Danny can't read his dad's mind, or anyone's mind for that matter. Well, he can read the other dude who has the Shining's mind. But yeah, there's not like that much of that happening in the movie. Also in the book, his imaginary friend Tony is like a separate imaginary friend who like shows him the future and stuff. But in the movie, Tony is like a little finger, and he says he lives in like his mouth and his stomach, and like he'll talk. Tony, which like you have to do that to make it come to life in a movie. That makes sense. But main thing, I really like Wendy way better in the book than the movie. Yeah, I had a really good time reading The Shining. I will say, reading multiple Stephen King books in a row, I'm getting a little beaten down, feeling a little dreary, feeling like I need to pick me up. So I'm going to try Joyland next. I don't think it's going to be a pick-me-up necessarily, but it is based in an amusement park, which seems like it's going to be a little lighter. So we'll see how that goes. And I don't know if I'll get to all of the books I wanted to get to this week of Stephen King's. I might just finish at Joyland, but I do want to read Misery. But like I said, I'm just getting a little beaten down, and I know that one's going to be heavy because it's like real life, real people stuff, which I think is why I liked The Shining more, is because this was very much real people, real life. Like there is a supernatural sort of element. I mean, that's what The Shining is, but the story didn't depend entirely on the supernatural element to carry the plot. It very much was like Jack was already an alcoholic. Jack was already having problems in his marriage and had already had a history of violence and abuse. So being at the hotel, I think, just amplified that, less so like completely changed who he was as a person. And so the supernatural part only amplified the story rather than overtaking the whole thing. And I think I'm finding out that supernatural Stephen King is not my favorite, I think, is what I'm figuring out. TBD. But yeah, excited to watch this movie now and give Joyland a try. So I am halfway through Joyland now. We've been doing this for like a week and a half so far, which isn't terrible, but isn't as good as I would like to be doing. But anyway, I'm about halfway through, so I thought it'd be a good time to check in on this bad boy. First of all, I love the cover, especially now that I've started reading it and I understand this is like an actual character in the book. I enjoy it a lot. I don't know what to say about this one. I think all of these books, this is going to sound stupid, but you can tell Stephen King wrote all of these books. And it's like, yeah, obviously you can tell that when an author writes a book, but there's something about Stephen King's writing that has the same mood in all of these books, at least. And it feels like he's inserting himself into his stories, and that's just how he writes. So I'm kind of surprised he has like 70, 80, I don't know, however many books, and people are still reading him all these times. If it just sounds, I don't know, maybe these all came out around the same time. Look, people can like what they like. It's fine. I'm not mad at it. It's just, if you only read Stephen King, there's so much out there that you could be reading instead. Like, the mood is just the same the whole time in the writing. Like, it is an old man reflecting on his life when he was a young man, and sexuality is always involved, loneliness. I mean, it's just very similar. So this is about a young man who goes to work at an amusement park / carnival called Joyland for the summer. The timing of the novel is a little strange because it jumps around in time a lot. This guy's like at the end of his life, like he's old man going back and telling this story, which I just don't know why Stephen King felt a need to do that in both this and Revival. Like, it's okay for us to just follow a character present tense through their life. We don't have to have the framing narrative of this is them telling the story. I think he's just like, I get it, writing first person can be weird because it's like, who are you talking to and why? But he was like, no, I'm gonna give you a reason. This is an old man talking to you and telling you about his life. Whatever. Yeah, he's lonely. He is finding out that his long distance girlfriend is just like moving on, not interested in him anymore, so he's heartbroken. There's a fortune teller at the amusement park who tells him, you've got these two people who are going to come into your life. I think it's like a little girl with a red hat and then like a little boy with a dog or something. And you've started meeting those characters, and now I'm just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen for the rest of the book. But I don't feel like we're getting a ton of carnival time, which is unexpected. There's also been this like murder at the carnival that happened. This guy killed his girlfriend on a ride several years ago or whatever, so they think she's like a ghost haunting this ride. But yeah, it's fine so far. It's going by fast because it's so small, so I do appreciate that. But I'll check in with you when I finish this and let you know how it goes. I wasn't recording what just happened, but I just dropped my book behind the couch. Okay, hi. A long time no see. I have finished Joyland. My thoughts on this? It was fine. It didn't do anything wrong. I don't know what it could have done better. I just thought it was fine. It was like a mystery of trying to figure out, kind of. That's what I think it could have done better. Because the whole plot is like, he wants to know who killed the girl on the ride. I feel like it just didn't focus on anything. This book focused so much on our main character spending time with this kid who's gonna die and his mom, and flying a kite and with their dog and taking him to the park and like building a relationship with him. And it did not really focus on the murder mystery, the ghost, and then there's like a whole moment where the ghost's spirit is set free, he find out who the murderer is, and it just was not satisfying because it just felt conflicting. I didn't know what the point was supposed to be of this book, I guess. So it was fine. That's all I have to say. So that's a wrap. I'm just going to end this vlog here. I don't think you could pay me to read another Stephen King book right now. I mean, you probably could. I've got a price, but there's nobody paying it, so I'm gonna stop. So I read 3 Stephen King books. I read Joyland, The Shining, and Revival. I was also supposed to read Misery, which is the one I was the most excited about, but I am so burnt out by reading Stephen King books. I just couldn't read another one right now. I can't do it. I'm gonna get put in a reading slump and then I'm just gonna be done for the month, and it's just the middle of the month. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. They're not bad necessarily. They're just the same, and I can't do it again. I cannot read another one right now. I can't do it. But I would say this was successful. I have wanted to read more Stephen King books for a while now. I feel like a lot of people are getting into his stuff this year in particular, and I know what a lot of his books are about. I've heard about them. I've seen movies and the shows and stuff. So it just doesn't seem right to say like, I don't think I like Stephen King without giving him a shot and actually reading his books. And I think now I can say it's gonna take a lot for me to read more of Stephen King. I will definitely read Misery at some point, I promise. I just need a break. It's going to be a while. But yeah, I will never just read a Stephen King book for the sake that Stephen King has a new book out like he does every 6 months or so, because it is just not my favorite style. It just sounds like an older man wrote it. I just don't like that. And that's okay. To summarize what I read, Revival, this turned out to be a story following a young boy through his entire life and talking about the relationship he had with this preacher who came to his town who was super obsessed with electricity, and how their paths collided and what that resulted in his life. Took a weird supernatural turn at the end. Thought it was well written, but mostly it was just fine. I gave this 3.5 stars. Then I read The Shining. I'm sure everyone knows what this is about. It's about a family who goes to stay at the Overlook Hotel. The dad is supposed to be taking care of the hotel through the winter seasons, making sure, I don't know, the pipes don't freeze or something. And so he goes with his wife and his son, and then the hotel has a negative effect on him, drives him mad, and crazy things happen. I think what I love so much about it is it did not depend on the supernatural element. It didn't have to take a super weird, unexplained turn in the end. It just made sense. There was one story we were really following. There was a lot of characterization that made the characters believable. It was just good. It was a good book. And then I read Joyland, which is about a young man who goes to work at a carnival. It's a coming of age story. He has gone through a breakup. He's just kind of looking for something to do with his life. A fortune teller tells him there's going to be these 2 people who come into his life. One of them is a little boy with a dog. He meets this little boy who's going to die young. He has an illness, I don't remember what it was, and spend some time with him, spend some time getting over his girlfriend, spend some time thinking about a ghost that haunts one of the carnival rides, and ultimately, it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. So that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed watching this vlog more than I enjoyed reading these books, except for The Shining. That was good. Definitely check that one out. But that is it from me. I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.